My sister was a single mom to my niece Ellie for 8 years. Then she met her husband Rich, and very quickly she ended up pregnant. Ellie really didn't know Rich at all by that point, and she wasn't thrilled. My sister was of the opinion that Ellie would come around in time. After baby Liam was born, my sister set up these cute photo shoots for Ellie and Liam, and she involved Ellie in the pregnancy, which was something Ellie resisted doing. But my sister basically gave her no choice. When Liam was 1, my sister found out that Ellie and her BFF Hazel were talking about the new half-siblings in their lives. Hazel's half-sister was born a couple of months before Liam was, and neither their half-siblings were real siblings. My sister heard Hazel and Ellie say they didn't love or care about their half-siblings, their stepdads, and how they didn't have a real family anymore. Hazel claimed her mom replaced her dad and that she would never want the replacement family. Ellie told Hazel she missed it being just her and her mom, and she never wanted a dad like her mom seemed to think. She also said Liam was just a baby. She didn't get all affectionate and protective like most of the family said she would. She said if Rich took Liam and left for good, she would be kinda glad. My sister contacted Hazel's mom and stepdad, and she told them Hazel was no longer welcome in our house. When Ellie didn't change toward Liam afterward, she told her she could no longer see Hazel anymore, and their friendship was over. My sister told me about it at the time, and I asked her how she was planning to do that, and wouldn't therapy be better? She said they just feed off each other too much. She went to their school to try and get them separated, but the school refused. She wanted me to pay for Ellie to go to a private school to get her away from Hazel. But I said no. Now Ellie is 15, and surprising few, except for my sister and Rich, a small bit, Ellie and Hazel are still friends at school and have never lost contact. Apparently, neither girl feels very different either. Ellie now has a new half-sister, Olivia, and Hazel has 2 half-brothers. My sister lost her shoot when she found out, and when she confronted Ellie, she was told by Ellie that Hazel is the most important person to her anymore, and she would never give her up for them. My sister grounded Ellie and has tried to make her want to stay away from Hazel, but it doesn't work. My sister has brought this up a few times since finding out, and the other day she accused me of not ever appearing, surprised that Ellie disobeyed her. I admitted that I wasn't, and I always knew trying to take Ellie's best friend from her would be something Ellie wouldn't go along with. My sister accused me of not being honest with her by not saying this sooner, and of wanting her marriage and family to fail. She also accused me of being arrogant and thinking I know Ellie better than she does. She also claimed I knew and had seen the girls together, which is untrue. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You can't command someone, especially a child or teenager, to feel differently. It almost always works to reinforce the existing feeling. What you need is to let them talk it out and explain it, and come to the conclusion on their own that their feelings make them jerks and want to change. Yeah, a real psychologist will say this better than me. Of course this would happen, but also, of course she would have hated you for ever speaking up against her stupid decisions. Comment 2. Ah yes, blame everybody for your child resisting something you forced her to accept and not listening to her thoughts and feelings in the matter. Not the idiot. Your sister needs to get her head out of her bottom. This is not about her. This is about her daughter being driven away by her sister's behavior. If she keeps this up, she will damage her relationship with Ellie permanently. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a week, and boy, do I have an update for you. So, after my sister accused me of wanting her family to fail, things got even more heated. She's been trying to control Ellie's life more than ever, and it's just pushing Ellie further away. My sister's been monitoring Ellie's phone, setting earlier curfews, and even trying to pick her friends for her. But Ellie's a smart cookie, and she's been finding ways to outsmart my sister at every turn. Remember how my sister tried to get Ellie away from Hazel by sending her to a private school? Well, Ellie's been using her lunch breaks at school to meet up with Hazel. They've been sneaking out to the nearby park, sharing their woes and supporting each other like true best friends do. It's like they're living a double life, and my sister has no clue. Now, here's where things get really juicy. Ellie's been talking to Hazel about how she feels more like a babysitter to Liam and Olivia than a sister. She's been helping out a lot at home since my sister and Rich are both working long hours. It's like Ellie's taken on a third parent role, and she's feeling the weight of it all. But the real shocker came when my sister found a note in Ellie's room. It was from Hazel, talking about a plan to run away together once they turned 18. My sister lost it. She confronted Ellie, and there was this huge blowout. Ellie shouted that she felt trapped and that Hazel was the only one who understood her. My sister was in tears, and Rich was trying to play peacemaker, but it was a mess. In the midst of all this, my sister somehow got it into her head that I was the one who gave Ellie the idea to run away. She thought I'd been secretly meeting with the girls and encouraging their rebellion. I was shocked. I had no idea about any of this, and I told her as much. But she wouldn't believe me. She said I was the only one who knew how Ellie felt and that I must have been the one to plant the seed. Now, let's rewind a bit to when Ellie was younger. She always had this adventurous spirit, this dream of traveling and seeing the world. It was something she and I talked about a lot. We'd look at maps and she'd point to all the places she wanted to go. I guess my sister remembered those conversations and thought I was still influencing Ellie's decisions. But here's the thing. I haven't had those kinds of talks with Ellie in years. Sure, I knew she was unhappy, but I never suggested she run away. That's just not something I would do. I care about Ellie's well-being, and I wouldn't want her to make such a drastic decision without thinking it through. So, after a lot of arguing and explaining, my sister finally understood that I wasn't behind Ellie's plan. It was a misunderstanding, but it showed just how much my sister is struggling to connect with Ellie. She's so wrapped up in her own fears that she's seeing conspiracies where there are none. Ellie's still grounded, and my sister is trying to rebuild their relationship. But it's going to take time. Ellie's trust has been broken, and she's not going to open up overnight. It's a tough situation, and I'm just trying to be there for both of them as much as I can. As for Hazel, she's still in the picture, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Those two are thick as thieves, and I think my sister is slowly realizing that she can't force Ellie to feel a certain way about her family. She's going to have to find a new approach if she wants to keep Ellie close. My husband can't work due to illness, so I let our divorced friend stay rent-free. But nosy neighbor spreads filthy lies, and now my marriage is on the rocks with therapy as our last hope. So for context, I'm a 41-year-old female. I'm married to a wonderful husband for 20 years, and we're still madly in love. Due to mental illness, my husband can't work, so I'm the breadwinner in our family. This works well. I have a high-paying job, don't have overtime, and mostly work from home. My husband is our homemaker, and seriously, he's great at it. Last year, I was able to buy us a new house with a big garden. We do have a high fence around our property, so looking into our house isn't easy. You'd have to stand on your toes to peek over the fence. One of our neighbors, let's call her B, is incredibly nosy. When we moved in, she was the first to show up, not to help, but to gossip about other neighbors and warn us to not trust them too much, and things like that. 2 months ago, my husband's best friend lost his job together with his wife, who thought a jobless man who can't provide doesn't deserve her. The poor guy struggled extremely with bills, divorce, and an upcoming depression. So my husband and I decided to get him out of this situation. We do have a spare bedroom that we wanted to turn into a gym room, but the room is still empty. So we offered this room to our friend, didn't ask for rent or any contribution, just to help him be able to breathe again and focus on the future without having to worry about rent, bills, etc. The divorce is nasty enough, the poor guy doesn't need more stress. It works out really well. He's a very nice guy, doesn't demand things from us, he's just happy to have a safe space to heal and get back on his feet. We do things together, but he also stays happily in his room when my husband and I want to be alone. Now, when I was grocery shopping a few days ago, I met some neighbors who gave me weird looks, which confused me. Since I'm not the type to just brush things off, I stopped and asked what the problem is. Turns out, B had been snooping around our house and spread nasty rumors in the neighborhood. That I live together with 2 men, that the men in my house change. She even called it openly a whorehouse, since she rarely sees me go to work, and my husband never goes to work. She spread in the neighborhood that I must earn my money on my back, otherwise I couldn't afford such a nice house. I was livid and told my neighbors on the spot what's really the case, and then I left too worked up to focus on groceries. Now in the parking lot, I saw B. In my fury and rage, I stormed up to her and started screaming at her. I told her whoever I invite into my house is none of her business and to stay the frick away from us. My family is not her concern, and if she ever badmouths me again, that won't go well. Then I simply left, not wanting to hear any word from her. Now some of my friends think I massively overreacted, while others think I just was protecting my family and friend. and gossip can hurt badly too, so I'm here for final judgment. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This may just be the New York in me, but I think you did the right thing. Honestly, I can't believe you had the strength to even hold back, because I think what you did was really mild. People are too comfortable now when talking about others because there are no consequences, so glad you stood up for your family. Comment 2. Not the idiot, but don't waste the opportunity to mention to any neighbors that she starts all these rumors, so no one knows what she's busy doing. Tell them all the things she said about each of them. Make it up. Make it outrageous. Turn her into the pariah. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. I really appreciated the support and advice. So it's been a month since the whole blow-up with my nosy neighbor B, and boy, do I have an update for you. After the confrontation in the parking lot, things seemed to calm down. B kept her distance, and my husband and I went back to our usual routine. Our friend, who I'll call Jay, was still staying with us, and he was slowly getting his life back together. He found a part-time job and was contributing to the household in small ways, which we appreciated. But then, about 2 weeks ago, things took a turn. My husband, who's always been the sweetest and most supportive partner, started acting distant. At first, I thought it was just stress or maybe a new phase of his mental illness. But then I noticed something that made my heart drop. He and Jay were spending a lot of time together, more than usual. They'd stay up late talking after I went to bed, and I'd often find them laughing together in the kitchen in the mornings. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the change in my husband's behavior was undeniable. I decided to talk to him about it, and that's when the bombshell dropped. He confessed that he had developed feelings for Jay. He swore nothing physical had happened, but the emotional betrayal stung just as much. I was heartbroken. The man I'd been madly in love with for 20 years, the man I supported through thick and thin, was telling me he had feelings for someone else. The next few days were a blur. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Jay, realizing the chaos he had unintentionally caused, decided to move out. He apologized profusely, saying he never meant for any of this to happen. He packed his things and left, leaving me and my husband to sort through the wreckage of our relationship. My husband was remorseful. He said he never intended to hurt me and that he was confused about his feelings. He begged for my forgiveness and promised to work on our marriage. We started couples therapy, and it's been hard. Digging up all the emotions, trying to rebuild trust, it's a lot. But the drama didn't end there. Remember B, the nosy neighbor? Well, she somehow caught wind of the tension between my husband and me. She must have seen Jay leaving with his things, because the rumors started up again, this time with a new twist. She was telling people that my husband and I were getting a divorce, and that Jay had been the cause of it. I was furious. Not only was I dealing with my own heartbreak, but now I had to deal with B's twisted version of events spreading through the neighborhood. I confronted her again, this time more calmly. I told her that whatever was happening in my home was none of her business, and that she needed to stop spreading lies about us. She just smirked and walked away, but I could tell she enjoyed the drama she was creating. The confrontation with B didn't go unnoticed. Other neighbors started reaching out, some with genuine concern, and others just looking for gossip. I shut them all down. I wasn't about to air my dirty laundry for the whole neighborhood to see. Through all of this, my husband has been trying to make amends. He's been attentive, helping around the house more, and he's been open about his therapy sessions. But I can't shake the feeling of betrayal. I still love him, but I'm not sure if that's enough anymore. So that's where we are now. My husband and I are in a fragile place, trying to piece together a marriage that's been rocked by an emotional affair. B is still a thorn in my side, but I'm doing my best to ignore her. And Jay, well, he's gone, but the impact of his stay lingers in my home. Sister-in-law can't swim and refuses to snorkel, so I leave my toddler with her, but after she apologizes for her attitude, it comes out she's jealous of my pregnancy, and brother-in-law is gay. I, 34-year-old female, recently went on a snorkeling trip with my husband, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law's wife, and the kids, my sons, ages 7 and 3, plus my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's son, who is 8 years old. When I was planning this trip, all of the communication from my brother-in-law and sister-in-law was always like, "We are so excited to go," or "We are looking forward to it." So I was always under the impression that everyone was going to, get in the water and go snorkeling. Heck, my sister-in-law and I were talking about what reef-safe sunscreen to buy before the trip. And then we get on the boat, and we're headed to the reef. Everyone's getting their snorkeling gear out, reapplying sunscreen, and I started to inflate my toddler's armbands. When my sister-in-law saw me, she looked a bit confused and asked me whether my husband will be looking after both the boys in the water. I said my husband will go snorkeling with our 7-year-old while I get in the water and stay near the boat with our toddler. I'm 5 months pregnant, and I didn't want to stray too far from the boat with a toddler. The day was beautiful and visibility was amazing, but no way was I going to let my husband handle both kids by himself. This wasn't a beach. We were literally jumping into the sea from the boat. She told me she assumed I'd be staying on the boat because of my toddler and my pregnancy. I told her no. I can't really do that. Look, both of my kids love the ocean. If my toddler saw his dad and brother get in the water while he's stuck on the boat, believe me, we'd all be suffering. I asked her if there's a specific reason why she didn't want to get in the water, and she said she's not a good swimmer. She then asked me whether I'd be okay with my 7-year-old going with my brother-in-law while my husband took our toddler. I said no because I wanted at least one adult per child. I told her she could put on a life jacket and join me in the water, but she said no. She then asked me to stay with her because she didn't want to be alone. She wasn't actually alone. The captain was on the boat, but I guess she didn't want to be alone with a stranger. I didn't stay on the boat. She only gave me one-word answers on the way back home, but I got a message 2 days ago. She basically said that she was wrong to assume that I would stay on the boat, but she thought I would stay as a good host. I told her I'm sorry she felt that way. She called me a butt that can't even properly apologize. I promptly cut that off and let my husband deal with it. My sister-in-law has called me multiple times since, but I haven't answered. My brother-in-law is unhappy that I'm ignoring her and told my husband to make me talk to her. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. If she needs someone on the boat, she should have called her own husband back in. Was he aware she was planning to stay on the boat? Did brother-in-law know she wasn't going to swim and also just assume you'd babysit her? And he has the gall to be annoyed with you? ETA, your sister-in-law sounds like a child who can't stay on her own for a bit. I mean, come on. Comment 2. She told me she assumed I'd be staying on the boat because of my toddler and my pregnancy. When you assume, you make a butt out of you and me. Abe Lincoln, probably. She thought I would stay as a good host. You didn't host anything. Not the idiot 4. Your husband needs to deal with her and the demanding brother-in-law. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post about the snorkeling trip. Things have taken some unexpected turns, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. After the whole snorkeling debacle, my sister-in-law's attitude towards me went from cold to downright icy. She started dropping passive-aggressive comments whenever we met, and it was clear she was still holding a grudge. My husband tried to mediate, but it was like talking to a brick wall. She was convinced I had wronged her, and nothing could change her mind. Then, out of the blue, my brother-in-law came over to our house one evening, looking more serious than I'd ever seen him. He confessed that he and my sister-in-law were having marital problems and that the snorkeling trip was supposed to be a chance for them to reconnect. He admitted that they hadn't been communicating well for months and the tension had been building up. The trip, which was supposed to be a fun family outing, had become a breaking point for them. I was shocked. They had always seemed like the perfect couple, always laughing and joking together. But as my brother-in-law opened up, I learned that they had been putting on a facade. They were struggling with infertility, which had put a massive strain on their relationship. My sister-in-law had become increasingly jealous of my pregnancy, and seeing me with my kids was a painful reminder of what she couldn't have. The revelation hit me hard. I had been so caught up in my own life that I hadn't noticed the signs of their distress. Guilt washed over me for not being more understanding. I offered my support, but my brother-in-law just shook his head and said they needed to work through things on their own. A few days later, my sister-in-law called me, and this time, I answered. She was crying, apologizing for her behavior, and explaining how hard it had been for her to be around me and my growing family. She confessed that she had been unfair to me, and that her own insecurities had gotten the best of her. We had a long emotional conversation, and I could tell she was genuinely remorseful. I forgave her, and we agreed to start fresh. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and for a moment, it seemed like things were going to be okay. But life had another curveball to throw. Just when my sister-in-law and I were rebuilding our relationship, my brother-in-law dropped another bombshell. He had been seeing a therapist to deal with their marital issues, and through the sessions, he realized that he was gay. He had been struggling with his identity for years and had finally come to terms with it. The news sent shockwaves through the family. My sister-in-law was devastated, feeling like their entire marriage had been a lie. My husband was stunned, not knowing how to support his brother through such a monumental change, and I was caught in the middle, trying to be there for both of them while dealing with my own mix of emotions. The next few weeks were a blur of tears, arguments, and heart-to-heart talks. My brother-in-law moved out, and my sister-in-law started therapy to cope with the end of her marriage. It was a painful time for everyone, but there was also a sense of relief as secrets were brought into the light. As for me, I was left with a bittersweet feeling. I was happy that my brother-in-law could finally be true to himself, but I was heartbroken for my sister-in-law, who had to watch her marriage crumble. And through it all, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss for the close-knit family we once were. Now, we're all trying to find our way forward. My sister-in-law and I have grown closer, supporting each other through this tumultuous time. My brother-in-law is exploring his new life with a mix of fear and excitement, and my husband and I are doing our best to keep our family together, even as the dynamics shift around us. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.